Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin. Let's call it what it is. Bitcoin is in a bear market. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Now, I see a lot of people trying to wiggle their way around the idea that Bitcoin is still in a bull market. And most of the people that are doing this, I think, are the ones that keep peddling that Bitcoin's going to go to 300K by the end of the year. So if they give up on the idea that Bitcoin is in a bull market, then they're basically admitting that they were wrong. And so they will probably continue to say that Bitcoin is in a bull market and that we will have a V-shaped recovery. Now, we've always maintained here that we will keep an open mind to other theories. And I think it's important that we stay resolute in that declaration, that we actually stay with that, and we don't jump to any conclusions just yet, okay? The reason I say that is because Bitcoin has thrown us curveballs before. We know that Bitcoin could theoretically put in new all-time highs whenever it wants to, and then it's gonna leave people saying, who bought the dip? But if you watch this channel, you'll know we've been saying since 2019 that this cycle will likely be very different from prior cycles, and it will lengthen, and the ROI will likely diminish, okay? So with that said, that's how I'm navigating this market cycle. I'm not navigating this market cycle like that it has to go to 300K by September, which I know is being pushed a lot of other places. I want you guys to know that if you do follow these other theories and you think the party's over if Bitcoin's not at $300,000 by September, that's when I'm going to start getting bullish, because a lot of people have faith in these models based on Bitcoin going to 300K this year. And we've shown all along that that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense if history is any indication, and by somewhat dubiously extrapolating prior moves. Now, dubious extrapolation is something we do on this channel, of course, and I get criticized for it, and you know what, maybe rightfully so. But my opinion is that we should at least take the trends from prior cycles and use them to understand what could theoretically happen this cycle, rather than just taking one data point and saying that it has to happen again, okay? So as far as I'm concerned, Bitcoin is going to where it should be in terms of where it should be in its ROI at this stage of the cycle. If we do our little bar pattern update and show you each cycle, we notice all of them go diminished returns, lengthened cycles, okay? All of them do that. And we've talked about the idea that, like 2019, Bitcoin could be going through an extended consolidation phase, okay? It does not have to be a V-shaped recovery. Now, I will keep an open mind. But if you're only following people that are telling you that it has to be a V-shaped recovery, then of course they're going to tell you it's in a bull market. Of course they're going to tell you that, because if they don't, they're basically saying that they were wrong. So my thinking here is that you need to be open to the idea of more downside with Bitcoin, okay? You have to be open to the idea. Back in 2019, there was a long consolidation phase, and we started to get back on track in early 2020, and then we had the pandemic drop, and then we really got back on track. So we've shown before that there's a really high probability that Bitcoin comes into this area in terms of the ROI from market cycle bottom. And so I've shown many times that as we got ahead of this cycle, and we dropped below, we got ahead of this cycle and we dropped below, okay? So like I've said, every cycle has its own distinct characteristics. And there's some people out there that like to line up the last cycle and say that Bitcoin has to do the exact same thing. That's just simply not how markets work. Markets do not work by just saying that, hey, it did it this way a few years ago, our first 4-year cycle, because the cycle before that was not 4 years, even though they don't want you to believe that. But the last cycle before the last cycle was 4 years. I'll give you that. The cycle before that was not 4 years, and the cycle before that was not 4 years. So be open-minded and don't necessarily follow one specific model not even my own, constantly ask yourself questions, constantly, criticize models, constantly think about other ways to look at the data. If you go based on one model and always operate deterministically, then this is what happens, right? You assume that it has to go up, you assume that it has to have a V-shaped recovery like the last cycle, and if it doesn't happen, then people are going to have to backpedal for a while on why it's not going to 300K in 2021. My contention has always been since 2019 that this cycle is getting diminished and lengthened, okay? I don't know exactly when it's going to peak. My guess is that the market cycle peak is probably not until 2022. I don't think it will be in 2021. But we could have a consolidation phase for a while. How the market cycle peak might not be until 2023. I have, if you guys watch the pinned video on my channel that's been up there for a while, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that the cycle could extend well into 2022. I'm not even talking about just the first quarter. I'm talking about it could go much further into 2022 than you're imagining. And there's a non-negligible chance that it goes until 2023. Okay, so the idea that we have to go to 300K this year is very far-fetched, and I think people need to look at the charts in an unbiased way and call it what it is. A bear market. I mean, I don't think bear markets should be something scary. If anything, bear markets represent opportunity. I've always said that bull markets will make you money, but bear markets will make you rich, because if you stick around in the bear market, then you have the most to gain. Okay, back in 2019, people were making a lot of money, and this brought some new people into the market. Not nearly as many people as this other run did, but it brought some people into the market. The people that stuck around during this little brief bear market, they gained a lot during the bull. In the same way, I think that people that stick around here will be the ones that gain the most in the next leg of the market cycle. Okay, so far, as measured from market cycle bottom, we have not had one bull market. It's been made up so far of two bull markets. Now, you could argue the one in 2019 was a fake bull market, and I'm not going to really argue that point, because to some degree you're right. And based off the metrics that I use to identify a bull market, there's three of them. A golden cross. Okay, so let's go see what happened in 2019 that makes it so that we can't really say, okay, well, was it a bull market, was it not? We had a golden cross back in 2019 right here. That's the first thing. Okay, so number one, you need a golden cross, the 50-day going above the 200-day. Number one, this is the first thing you need. Number two, you need to go above the 20-week or the 21-week EMA, but the 20-week SMA is usually my preference. But if you prefer the 21-week EMA, you can use that. They're pretty similar. You want to go above the 21-week EMA or the 20-week SMA. And so we have to go look at that and say, okay, well, did that happen back in 2019? Did it? It did. About the same time as the golden cross, right here. So we fulfilled the first two criteria to be in a bull market. We did not fulfill the third. The third is a retest of the 20-week SMA. This is the third thing, in my opinion. Now, my opinion is somewhat subjective. There's reason that you could criticize what I consider to be a valid bull market that would take us to new all-time highs. This one did not fail, or it did not hold the 20-week SMA during the first test. It simply did not hold it. And part of the issue is when you go for 6 months or something without testing it, it makes it harder to hold it. This is the same thing we said here. Are we too far gone to hold it? It was not like 2017 when we just tested it every 2 or 3 months to make sure that everything was okay before we would continue to go higher. Okay, this cycle was very different. We had a first leg here, and then we failed to hold the 20-week. Now, this one did meet the 3 criteria, okay? We got above the 20-week SMA, we also had a golden cross on the daily time frame, and we retested the bull market support band and held it as support. The issue with not holding it as support up here, in my opinion, is because we were too far gone. We had gone too long. We speculated that this could happen, that we're too far gone. It's been like 6 months since we tested it. And so I don't know if we built up enough market structure, if you want to call it that, to really hold it as support. And so now, we've been moving down. Now, when you talk about, well, what is a bear market? How do you define a bear market? There's a few different things. First of all, weekly closes below the 20-week SMA or the 21-week EMA are a start. So this looks very bearish, and this one doesn't look like it has much of a chance to go back up by the end of the week. So if we assume that it's not going to go back up here, to give you an idea, the price of Bitcoin would have to rally 40-something% in less, in about a day or so just to get back to the 20-week SMA. I think that's highly unlikely to happen. And this looks very, very bearish. Okay, it looks very bearish at this point. And I think in the same way that over here, we were more likely to go up than down. Now we're certainly more likely to go down than up. Okay, we have to be pragmatic about every step of the way, because again, some people get scared of bear markets, but bear markets, that's where the real money is made. The bear market is really where the money is made, because those who stick around in the bear market, again, have the most to gain in the bull. So you have the first, we actually had the cross of the 20-week and the 21-week EMA, which the 20-week SMA and the 21-week EMA, which normally means we at least test the bull market support band within a few weeks, as we showed before. If history is any indication, it proved true again. We were unable to hold it after going about 6 months. We were too far gone, and now there are a lot of people that are calling for this V-shaped recovery. And again, I will say to you, I don't think that's going to happen, but I don't mind being proven wrong, okay? All these theories that people have, they're great. They provide a different perspective. I just disagree with them, right? I just disagree with them. But I certainly don't want to turn a blind eye to other theories and assume that they can't play out. So I don't think we're going to have a V-shaped recovery. I think it's more likely that we have a longer consolidation phase. This is what I think is more likely. I think it's more likely that we consolidate for months and months and months before continuing the next leg of our journey. Okay, I do not think Bitcoin will go to 300K in 2021. As I've said, I don't think Bitcoin's going to go to 300K this market cycle. Let's just be entirely clear. I think the peak is not going to be at 300K. Not this cycle. Next cycle, I think Bitcoin will make it. We have videos on this, but we did a ton of them in the last bear market. Basically, I think that this cycle Bitcoin will probably make it to just over 100K. If I had to put a number, I'd say 120 to 140, but it's probably not going to happen this year. My guess is 2022 or 2023 is when it'll happen, but probably not this year. I should say, I think it'll happen before the next halving. Okay, I think it'll happen before the next halving, but I don't think Bitcoin's going to go to that market cycle peak this year. My guess is that we need some time to consolidate and then gear back up for the next move. Okay, this is my guess. I also would like to say, everyone's talking about the whole Wyckoff distribution. If that's what you want to call it, that's fine, right? I'm not criticizing that model. I think that's fine. What I do think is a little bit ridiculous is that there are a lot of people out there that they recognize this Wyckoff distribution pattern on the weekly chart or the daily chart, and then they're zooming into the hourly chart to talk about Wyckoff accumulation. My guess is that you're basically reaching. You're reaching for stuff at this point. You're very likely not going to have distribution take place over 3 months and then have accumulation take place over 3 weeks. That's just likely not what's going to happen. And so I think people are to some degree are sort of they're looking for things that are not there on low time frames. The truth, and I'm here to always bring you what the truth in the charts is that Bitcoin right now is bearish. Let's call it what it is. Let's stop playing games, right? I mean, I see this stuff on Twitter. Let's stop playing games and saying that, you know, it's gonna be back above 100, or it's gonna be back 100K this summer. Let's stop playing games and say Bitcoin is bearish right now, and it's more likely than not that we consolidate for a while. It's more likely than not that we consolidate for a while. Okay. So if you want to call this the reloading zone for the inevitable move to 100K, fine. You can call it that. I've called it that before too. And whenever we do make the move up, guess who's going to be loaded up? But I will say that if you're playing this game, you know, if you're on like high leverage or anything like that because someone told you we're about to have a V-shaped recovery, you have to open your mind and realize that these guys that are telling you we're going to have a V-shaped recovery, they certainly were not saying that we were going to go down 55%. Okay, they certainly were not saying that. So I'm not sure, if they weren't saying that, I'm not sure why you should necessarily believe that they know there's going to be a V-shaped recovery if they thought that we were about to go to 300K within a few months. So what I would say is, based on the theories that we show on the channel, that Bitcoin was ahead of schedule. It was ahead of schedule. And we do need to consolidate for a while. We probably will not have a V-shaped recovery. And that assuming Bitcoin is in a bull market is not doing yourself any favors. Let's call it what it is. Right now, Bitcoin is in a bear market. It is in a bear market. It's down, I mean, it's down 50% from the all-time high. Explain to me how that is a bull market. It's not a bull market. It is a bear market, as we identified. Bitcoin going below the bull market support band. Changes the sentiment on altcoins. And you can see it now. How many altcoins have put in new all-time highs since Bitcoin broke the 20-week? How many of them have? Not very many. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that you need to go shill your pet project microcap that did. I'm just saying that most coins are not putting in new all-time highs. And the reason is because the sentiment in the market has decisively changed. When Bitcoin's below the 20-week, the market sentiment changes, okay? Do not expect altcoins to immediately put in new all-time highs while Bitcoin remains bearish. It's just likely not going to happen. Now, with all that said, my guess, again, is that at some point in the next several weeks, we will have a sizable rally. Whether that starts here and takes us to 46K, whether it starts at 25K and takes us back to 40K, I don't know. I don't know when it's going to come. But we're still playing in the sandbox until we go back to the bull market support band and actually get above it and test it as support. Okay? This is the sandbox. And we're playing in it. We're playing in the sandbox. Until that happens, people might get excited over $1,000 move in a day or a $10,000 move. That'd be pretty awesome. Until we get back above the bull market support band, until we decisively test it as support for several weeks or several months, we are playing in the sandbox, and Bitcoin is in a bear market. We don't need to call it something that it's not. Let's just call it what it is. Bitcoin is in a bear market right now, and it should not be a scary thing, in my opinion. It should represent an opportunity for those that felt like they were late to the party and actually want to get in at lower prices. So if you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. If you want to check out how I'm navigating these markets, make sure you check out the premium list. You can find a sale on the premium list in the description below as well. At the very least, definitely subscribe. Let's go for 450,000 subscribers, and I'll see you next time. Bye.